Donald Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize?
So, look, I think I'm strongly supporting the work that President Trump is doing,
yes or
and
no,
you'll
Yvette
know
Cooper?
it's an independent process. Nick.
This is the compilation of failures that led to a political career being exposed and destroyed. Watch the Labour Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, destroyed on 3 critical issues: small boats, grooming gangs and police funding, by LBC's Nick Ferrari. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like and subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Now let's watch this together, and then I'll share my thoughts at the end.
To do. We need to get those boat numbers coming down. We need to, and no one should be making those boat crossings. So that is, of course,
that is what we need to do, Home Secretary, but will we do it? Will the numbers be declining this time next year?
It is, of course, what we are aiming to do. If I set out some of the things that we are working to do at the moment, it means strengthening the law enforcement, and we need the law to change in Germany so that we can clear out the warehouses that are being held in Germany. We need the stronger law enforcement.
I think they make the boats in Turkey, don't they? And they make the engines in Germany. So for the third time, can you, when we talk this time next year to celebrate your 2 years in office, will you be able to say, look, the numbers have come down for the third time of asking?
That is exactly what I want to be able to come into the studio and say that to you. But as you know, Nick, we will do absolutely everything we can to go after the gang networks, but also to develop new arrangements around returns, for example, as well.
But to my listeners,
also working to do.
To my listeners who've heard Mr. McFadden be asked 4 times and he can't say, the Home Secretary asked 3 times, why should they have confidence?
Well, what I can set out is the things that we're doing.
It's the 1 in, 1 out. It's 50, and we know that on a typical week, around 840 will make the crossing, but 50 is a start. Home Secretary, how will those 50 be selected?
So we're not actually fixing the ultimate numbers either in the first phase of the pilot or in subsequent phases of the pilot. So
it could be fewer than 50.
And so we need to get this started, and we need to build this over time. What we'll do in terms of the returns and who it is that's returned and the priorities, those will be operational decisions in the way that immigration enforcement always makes operational decisions, but we want that to work effectively. In terms of people applying to come to the UK, we've said that priority will be given to people who have a connection to the UK, or people who are most likely to be genuine refugees or been targeted by the smuggling gangs as well. But this is a pilot, and we will develop it over time. But that principle, that fundamental change is really important.
So it could be fewer than 50 if the number's not fixed?
Well, we will start this and we will grow this. That's the approach that we will take, and that's why we've not fixed numbers.
Right. So, lastly, Home Secretary, it could be fewer than 50. The answer which is yes.
So, Nick, what you're trying to do is to get me to sort of to play in and to speculate about different numbers.
You were the one who said the number's not fixed.
Yeah, it's not fixed. Exactly. That's
so it could be fewer than 50.
So I'm not going to speculate about the numbers that we'll get to. And you know, part of the reason that I'm not going to speculate about the numbers is partly because we will develop this over time, and it is a pilot, and also partly because there are ways in which we don't want the smuggler gangs to find different ways round this, and they will respond to whatever information we put out. We do want to see returns taking place in a matter of weeks, but we will need to work those processes through.
So they will be taking place in August?
So, again, we need to work those processes through, but we want to see the returns themselves take place as swiftly as possible.
You can't say August.
Bear in mind, people will be detained until they are returned, so they will remain in detention. Well, as I said, we want this to be in a matter of weeks. Some of those cases we hope will be able to take place very quickly. In other cases, we are ready to resist legal challenges, which we've seen take place before. These are new processes. Of course, they've got to be rolled out. But I think there's
will it happen in September, Home Secretary?
That's our expectation,
No, but can you pledge that it will happen in September?
That is our expectation,
So you can't guarantee it will happen in September?
We know that we will work through different legal challenges, and we will do so as speedily as possible. Why weren't you advised of this by your lawyers? It makes it sound like you've suddenly realised these problems. You must have been aware of these. Well, no, quite the opposite, actually.
What, the lawyers didn't advise you?
No, quite the opposite, as in we've always been clear that it would take time to roll out the first phase of this, and the plan is to have a pilot that you build up.
I seem to recall you saying in August that it would be within weeks.
We want this to be in a matter of weeks.
Now in September it would be within weeks. I wonder if we'll be saying the same in October.
it's 4 weeks since we signed the treaty. And if you remember the Rwanda agreement that the previous government had, they ran it for 2 years and sent no one. So we're working actually at quite rapid pace to get people into detention and to get those return cases referred.
When these hotels are closed, then, where will the people go?
So I think it's a mix of things. First of all, you actually have to shrink the whole asylum system. So we actually need to have fewer people in the asylum system in the first place, fewer people needing accommodation. That has to be at the core of this. It's been allowed to expand in a way that is out of control. And then, yes, we do also want to see alternative sites, more appropriate sites, including looking at military and industrial sites as well. But the core of it has to be clearing the numbers out of the system and preventing as many people getting into the system in the first place.
Home Secretary, what's an industrial site? What does that mean?
We will provide more updates on this, but the point is we're looking at a range of different locations, working with local
is it a
councils.
disused carpet warehouse or something? What is an industrial site?
Well, we're looking with other government departments and looking with the local councils at what some more appropriate sites might be, and certainly more appropriate than asylum hotels. We have managed to cut the bill for these costly asylum hotels by nearly £1 billion this year.
But is it a warehouse? Is an industrial site a warehouse?
There are a range of different things that we're looking at.
Well, can you give me an example, Secretary?
Not yet. And I will do so as we've got more progress on this, because
so you're looking at something. You and your colleagues are looking at something, and you've no idea of the example of what it might be. Let's look at industrial sites, Home Secretary. That's a good idea, and no one knows what it is.
We will provide you with more updates when we've got
but is it a
the practical
warehouse?
Progress. That's one of the things that's been looked at, but we will provide updates when we've got the practical plans. What I'm not going to do, I'm doing the opposite, basically, of what the previous government did, because they used to just announce a whole load of things and then not actually deliver any of them.
Does he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, Foreign Secretary?
Well, obviously, that is an independent process that I can't cut across, but nobody should be in any doubt about the significance. Well, I was going to say nobody should be in any doubt about the significance of this moment, and we would not have got here without the US Peace Initiative, without the work that President Trump has done. A lot of countries have been involved in this, a crucial role played by countries like Qatar, but also many other countries from across the world. The UK has been involved alongside other countries in putting forward proposals for this 20-point plan, effectively, for this peace process over recent months.
Let's try this another way. Would you support Donald Trump getting the Nobel Peace Prize?
So, look, I think I'm strongly supporting the work that President Trump is doing,
yes or no,
and you'll know it's an independent process. Nick, I'm not going to cut across the process, because I think we are actually about to have it making its announcements today. I think we're expecting imminent announcements from the Nobel Peace Prize. I can't. No. But I do strongly support the peace role that President Trump is playing, and I don't think anybody else could be playing that role right now.
Inquiries into Southport, inquiries into Nottingham. Can you confirm there will be an inquiry into the murder of Sir David Amess?
So in the awful murder of Sir David Amess, there was also, the perpetrator had also been referred to Prevent previously. That Prevent Learning Review wasn't released under the previous government. We have said that will be released, and that's why I've been talking to David's family, to Katie and her mother, about that, and we would expect to release that next week.
But what of an inquiry?
I've also asked David Anderson, who is our new independent Prevent Commissioner, to review that entire case and to look specifically at David Amess's case and the Prevent referrals there as well.
Does that constitute an inquiry?
So it will be looking at the Prevent aspects of that case. There's also...
So is that an inquiry, Secretary?
There's with the David Amess case, there's a couple of other cases as well that are also have some similar themes that we are looking at, all of those, to look at what is the best way.
Can I call it an inquiry?
For all of the questions to be answered.
Okay.
What you would understand,
Why would you say the word inquiry?
Well, because there are different kinds of inquiries, aren't there? And I don't know. There are. Yeah.
Well, why can't there be an inquiry? Why can't we call whatever's being done into that tragic event an inquiry?
Because I'm looking at that at the moment. I'm looking at the David Amess case, but also there are 2 or 3 other cases which raise some similar issues, and we need to look at the way those questions need to be answered. Well, we don't fully know the story of the Southport killer, and that's why we need a public inquiry.
Why? You're the Home Secretary. You don't know all the events concerning Reliquana. Why not?
No, so this is a good issue. But I do know what happened in terms of the Prevent. I've done a detailed Prevent learning review, but what I don't yet know is the interaction between mental health services, social services, early years help, the schools, all of those different organisations. We know that between them, those organisations failed to recognise how dangerous that man was.
This was 8 months ago, Home Secretary.
Which is why we need but we've had a police investigation.
Why do we need a public inquiry to find out who didn't talk to who?
Well, as you will understand, Nick, you have to have the police investigation. The most important thing was to get the criminal trial through and to get justice and to get the killer prosecuted and through that trial, rightly so. What we now need is the public inquiry, because we need all of those organisations to be able to be honest about what happened and, the way in which they failed.
You just watched the case file for why Yvette Cooper was removed from the Home Office. Every time she stepped into that studio, she confirmed the worst fears of the British public. They have no control over the border crisis, they have no idea of the financial costs crippling the police, and they practice total secrecy around sensitive national issues like grooming gang deportations. This isn't just a tough interview, it's the total public destruction of a minister's credibility on the most important brief in government. When public humiliation of this magnitude goes viral, it creates a political liability too great to bear. The elite in Westminster can tolerate failure, but they cannot tolerate being visibly incompetent on live radio. Prime Minister's calculation was simple. The Home Secretary became the face of the failure to control the small boats crisis, and every dodged answer on Nick Ferrari's show added another nail to her coffin. This reshuffle was not about policy, it was about damage control. Ferrari didn't just expose her, he created the public pressure that ultimately saw her moved on. This is what happens when you underestimate the scrutiny of common sense. Do you believe these terrible media performances were the real reason Yvette Cooper was moved from the Home Office? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments below.